Yeah. See, somebody has to be. Huh? Somebody has to. So, let's continue. Now we are continuing in Daniel chapter 8, and we are continuing from verse 20 onwards, the interpretation of Gabriel, the angel, to Daniel, the prophet. Okay, he begins the ram with two horns. Okay, who is the ram with two horns? He says Media and Persia. Who is the he goat? Who is the he goat? The rough goat is the king of Greece. Yeah, the great horn is Alexander the Great. He's interpreting it for Daniel. He's giving him, and then of course his empire is divided into four among his four generals: Ptolemy, Seleucus, Lysimachus, and Cassander. Okay, then what does he say? In the latter times of their where am I now? 22. Four kings stood up for it. 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. What happens is, at that particular time, from those 4 kingdoms, in the latter times of their kingdom, when the transgressors have come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding and dark sentences shall stand up. So when sin is at its peak, when sin and immorality is at its peak among the Greek kingdoms, the Hellenistic kingdoms, that is when Antiochus Epiphanes would come to power. From among which dynasty does he come? Which of the 4 Greek dynasties does he come up from? Antiochus comes from which dynasty of the 4? We said there are 4 generals and 4 dynasties, right? He comes from the Seleucid dynasty. Yes. Comes from the Seleucid dynasty. He is of a fierce countenance. He's very strong-headed. He's very insolent. He's proud, and he understands intrigue. He is able to solve riddles and difficult sayings. But then we are told something else. His power is not his own. His power is not his own. Where does he get his power from? Yes, please say it. Where does he get this king? Where does he get his power from? Where is his power coming from? Antiochus. It's not his own power. Then whose power? No. Please say it. It's correct. You say it. From meaning what? Dark meaning? Exactly. His power is demonic. Okay, and with this he would destroy the holy and mighty people. Okay, and by his power, verse 24, he will be mighty but not by his own power, and he will destroy the holy and mighty people. Okay, all of his dealings are going to be done by deceit, by pretending peace. He would destroy. Okay, by pretending peace, and he defies God himself. He says, look at verse 25. He defies God himself, and at the height of his arrogance, and when he's magnifying himself and defying God, he dies. What does it say? He dies. He will be broken, but what's the phrase in your Bible? Broken. End of verse 25. Without hand he is broken. Without hand. Not by human agency. He is not murdered, he is not slain. But who takes him out? God himself takes him out. So, because he defied God himself, so God takes him out. God finishes him. Okay, one more. I think this will be the last for this chapter. But there is one more reading from Josephus. How was Antiochus taken out? Very interesting. Listen. May I read?
Which book this one? Can we get this one?
Yeah, this is all from Josephus, the works of Josephus, complete works of Josephus.
Is it there in our library?
It should be. Josephus should be there in the library. It's very common historian. So
We will check. Otherwise, it is shared with us. Otherwise,
yeah, the works of Josephus. You can even find it online for free.
that's good.
It will be there.
That's fine.
Works of Josephus. Free, public domain. No need to buy also. Okay, this is what Josephus says. About this time, it was that King Antiochus, as he was going over the upper countries, heard that there was a very rich city in Persia called Elymas, and therein a very rich temple of Diana, and that it was full of all sorts of donations dedicated to it, as also weapons and breastplates, which upon inquiry he found had been left there by Alexander, the son of Philip, king of Macedonia. And being incited by these motives, he went in haste to Elymas and assaulted it and besieged it. But as those that were in it were not terrified at his assault, nor at his siege, but opposed him very courageously, he was beaten off his hopes, for they drove him away from the city, and went out and pursued after him, insomuch that he fled away as far as Babylon, and lost a great many of his army. And when he was grieving for this disappointment, some persons told him of the defeat of his commanders, whom he had left behind to fight against Judea, and what strength the Jews had already gotten. When this concern about these affairs was added to the former, he was confounded, and by the anxiety he fell into a deep distemper, which as it lasted a great while, and as his pains increased upon him, so at length he perceived he should die in a little time. So he called his friends to him and told them that his distemper was severe upon him, and confessed withal that this calamity was sent upon him for the miseries he had brought upon the Jewish nation, while he plundered their temple and condemned their God. And when he had said this, he gave up the ghost. Understood what happened to Antiochus? How did he die? He heard of some temple of Diana somewhere in Persia, in a city called Elymas, and he went to get the gold which was there. He was greedy after gold. So he already took the gold from the Jewish temple, now he was going to a Greek temple. There he was opposed by those people, so he could not defeat them. Then while he was away, the Jews defeated his generals, so he could not take this. It was so severe upon him that he fell into a great depression, and he became physically weak, and he knew that he was going to die. And he called his friends around him and said, "What? This is coming to me because of what I did to the Jews, how I plundered their temple and how I blasphemed their God." And while he was saying these words, lights out. That's how he died. That's what this phrase means at the end of verse 25. But he will be broken without hand. That is the fate of Antiochus Epiphanes. Then he continues, verse 26, the part about the evening and morning sacrifices is true. He says, after 2,300 evening and morning sacrifices, the vision of the evening and morning which was told is true. Okay. Then he tells Daniel, shut up the vision, which means what? Finish it, record it, write it. It's telling Daniel to record it. Okay, record it, and that's the end of the matter. Okay. This vision which is given to Daniel would be fulfilled how many years later? Josephus told us. How many years later?
2300.
How many years? After 400. After around 400 years, 4 centuries later, See, Daniel lived from 605 to 535 BC. Antiochus came onto the scene, onto the Jewish scene in 167 BC, and then around 145 these things happened. So Daniel saw the vision. Then he said in verse 27, after the vision he comes back to reality and he faints and he becomes sick after this vision. He went about, then he says, I arose and went about the king's business. So this tells us that he was still working a little bit for which king? Now back to reality.
Cyrus.
No. For start of the chapter, which king? Belshazzar. Okay, and he was very troubled, and no one could understand the vision. Nobody could understand why. Nobody could understand the vision, and nobody could understand why Daniel was troubled. But so there's a great debate. Who is the little horn of Daniel 8? Little horn of Daniel 8. Is he the Antichrist or Antiochus? That's what we believe based on what we have studied here and based on history. And whether or not this prophecy is eschatological, whether it has already been, some say this prophecy is still yet to come. There's a lot of debate. Now, my humble suggestion based on what we've studied and history, in this context, chapter 8 of Daniel deals with Medo, Persia and Greek and the Greek Empire and their king. So there's no need to stretch this to include the end of the world plans, which we are already given those in chapter.
But same things mentioned by Jesus Christ also in the end days it will happen like this. Temple will be defiled.
Very good point, very good. We'll come to that. We'll definitely come to that. So, always in prophecy there is an already but not yet aspect.
He mentioned Daniel name also.
Absolutely. So, that is why there is a debate. But then, this has already happened, all these things. We can't deny it. History has happened. What has happened has happened. They didn't make it up. So that means in prophecy there is an already but not yet aspect. Certain things have happened as previews of what is going to happen again. It will repeat itself. Okay? So, we were already given information in chapter 7, right? We were given information in chapter 7, but this is a type of things to come. Have you heard of typology? Typology means when something happens, it is a preview, it is a type of future events, it is a template for future events. So in other words, this has happened now in real time in history, and it is also going to happen in the future. So this little horn is a type of the future, the little horn to come in the future. You compare the little horn of Daniel chapter 7 and you compare the little horn of Daniel chapter 8, and you will find that the little horn of Daniel chapter 8 and all the events have already happened, but the same thing is going to happen again. When? In the future. What happened here? Israel would experience one of its worst times. Okay? They would experience preservation and purification. God was blasphemed and his people were being persecuted. And what does it say about truth? Truth was cast to the ground. Truth was cast to the ground. Yet ultimately, what happened? The sanctuary was cleansed and God's people were given a victory and the law was restored. What did God do? He preserved and he purified his people whom he loves. And this that happened once is also going to happen
In the future.
again in the future. Especially for the Jews, specifically for the Jews. Purification and preservation. But what about for us as Christians? Today, is God blasphemed? Is the name of God in Christ blasphemed?
Yes.
Yes, definitely. And truth is being increasingly cast to the ground. And we face persecution from people from the outside and people from the inside. As we are seeing now in our current situation, here especially. we face persecution. Truth is being cast to the ground, and this is going to happen more and more, and is going to increase as the coming of Christ draws near. And what is our hope in such circumstances? God is sovereign. God will, just as He preserved the Jewish people, He will also preserve the church as His people, Christians. He will also, in the future, preserve the Jews who will be persecuted in the end times. And in the end, what is going to happen? When? In the end, truth will triumph. Truth will triumph. And when is that going to come? Look at verse 19. At the appointed time. At the appointed time. There was an appointed time in history past when Antiochus came onto the scene and he persecuted the Jews, but still they had victory. And there will be an appointed time in the end when the Antichrist will come onto the scene and he will persecute the saints, but still we will have victory. Okay, this is Daniel chapter 8, and now we will move on, because as per the schedule we have today the 21st, 8 and 9. Okay, so let's move on rapidly. 9 is actually quite big, so we must move on rapidly to chapter 9, and I'll end the recording.
Let us take little break.